And we're just going to go over charts to kind of show, first off, what you really want to do, okay, when you're trading is you want to make sure that you go the direction that the trend is heading at the time, okay? Very important, and drawing your charts. So you can see by this from midnight till even 5 o'clock when I got up this morning, to give an example, that you were really in an uptrend, even though they did have a little bit of a downtrend for a few minutes, okay? So what you want to get in the habit of doing is drawing on your charts, which is really, really important, okay? I'm going to draw just basically just a few areas on this chart, which I like to see. There's a thrust, a little retrace, another thrust. Now keep in mind, with smaller pullbacks, you're going to get a little bit of zigzag, but I still consider it more the break of the previous swing. So in other words, not this one as much as maybe that one. You see what I mean? But let's just go ahead and keep drawing it. Because when you see this on your charts, and you see this all the time, I mean, that's why we're so successful at being able to get into some of these great trades before they actually decide to really, basically change full trends and everything. We can get those scalps and things like that. So basically, let's say that I had drawn on my chart like this right here, okay? Now, keeping in mind that what I like to personally see is I like to see an A, B, C type move, okay? And then I put my line. This is the conservative line, okay? And this is real important. I'm drawing on your charts because let's say, for instance, that you put your line right here, okay? Now, keep in mind that your lightning 3 is pretty much your trend quite a bit. See if I can get it to draw. We'll draw it from here. We'll draw it from here. That's fine. All right, so that's your lightning 3 right there, okay? Now, your numbers that are text numbers, okay, that are actually numbers on your chart, they only draw from green to yellow on lightning 3 to green to yellow on lightning 3 and so on. But keeping in mind that it still takes a lot to draw another yellow one even, okay, when you're stair stepping up, because this is a lot of bars going back and forth right here. That's why that was drawn right there, okay? Now, if you were to draw lightning 3 like I just did, you'll notice that this didn't go from yellow to green yet until it was way up here. But I still look at this because you've got a high here, a low, ABC type move, and keeping in mind that that is a good place to draw on your chart, okay? Now, the other thing, when you're trading, you got to keep in mind that basically most of the time you're wanting to set your object trader for scalping, okay? You don't really want to take the chance of every run being a run, because they're not, okay? Now, like when our family's trading in the morning, to give an example, we don't try to get a full run. We try to get it till it hesitates or it hits a swing. You got to draw on your charts to see that, because if you draw on your charts, whether it's in your mind or if it's on the chart itself, you're going to be a better trader than most of the traders out there. Because when it comes down to trading the markets, just think about it. If you clone your accounts and you've got, say, 3 accounts even, and you do a couple $100 during that morning, times 3, that's 600, times 5, that's 3,000, times 4.33, that's about 13,000 a month, right? That's not a bad living by any means, okay? Now, if you want to make more than that, obviously, you can, but you got to be willing to clone more or take a little bit more chances in the market, okay? And there's really no other way around it, because if you're going to try to get the meat out of these trades, like really trending moves, you notice how they move? I mean, it's almost to the point of kind of nauseating, so to speak, because what do? They thrust up, then they kind of consolidate, and then they thrust up again, then they kind of consolidate. And for you to get a full move, you got to be willing to let it come back from line 8 to at least line 5 on a long, and that is 6, 6, and 6, which is 18 ticks. So that's quite a pullback. When you're trying to make only a couple $100 on a trade, then why would you let it come back 18 ticks against you, is the way I look at it. So the key to it, in my personal opinion, is drawing on your charts, okay? Let's say, for instance, that you got in this trade on this midband. Now, I wasn't up at 338, but this is a good midband trade, okay? So you look to the left to trade the right, and you draw on your charts, okay? So let's say that you got in on the midband trade. The first place that you're going to draw on your chart is right there, because that's a swing, okay? See the swing on the left? All right, now it's hit it several times, so you kind of figure that it's more than likely going to take it out because it already did. So then you draw on your charts and you say, okay, looking left to trade the right, there's a little swing right across here. And after that, there's a swing right here, okay? So when you're trading and you're drawing on your charts, you're really just wanting to get those few ticks that you can before they start deciding to pull back at all, okay? So if you get in a trade like this, let's say, for instance, you did the predictor trade and also a power dot, which I teach a lot, okay? So let's say that you basically averaged like right through here, kind of like probably if you got in here plus here, you'd average about halfway in between, so somewhere right across here, okay, that you actually got in that trade. You put your stop underneath the swing itself, like so. And then you simply go to the next level that's on your chart. What about the 30, 31, 20 swing? Well, yes, yeah. Now you've got to draw on your chart on that also. Yes. Let me go ahead and draw it too. Like that. Okay. Now predictor is really good about calculating the price action, which I find to work extremely well. So when I hit a predictor and I start pulling back at all, I'm pretty conscious of covering my trade so that I don't give up my runner. Now, when you get in one trade, like one contract like I did today on that one gold that I lost on, remember? and then the rest of them that were called were great. They worked just fine. But if you do one contract, you just pretty much got to let it hit either 10 ticks or hit your stop, or at least some swing. Okay. If you're in two contracts, then you can usually get those little pops where you can get some profit. And if they try to start turning around, then just, at least get out of one of them. Okay. But if you draw on your charts all the time, you're going to find just looking left to trade the right. See, there's even another swing right here. See this one? You just always look to the left to trade the right. And you'll see if you get in these trades, you got to target here, 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 and here. And predictor says here. Okay. So then when you get in that trade, you just want to let it kind of do its thing. Okay. There's one target right there. They took it out. So you don't have to worry about that target anymore. Now you're going for the next one. You got it. Okay. You got that target also. Now your next target is all the way up here. Okay. So when you're trying to go for the larger swings, what I highly recommend is see how they just barely missed that right there. How many times have you seen them do that? And think about this, even at one contract, they're pulling back from 30.33 all the way to 30.31.50. That's 15 ticks. So could you take your profit just the moment they get even close to that? And the answer is yes, because you'll usually get a pullback of some kind if you don't. But drawing on your charts, see, that did go ahead and take out that swing. Okay. And keep in mind that if you got that and you were just happy with it, now you got another predictor right here. And let's look to the left to trade the right. Always look left to trade the right. I don't see anything. Okay. So in a case like that, I would probably look for a measured move of some kind. Okay. Like that's a 1, 2, that's not a 3. So that's a 1, 2, 3. Everybody sees how I did that, right? I do that in the room quite a bit. But the whole idea of measured moves is an Elliott has to be like, this is a leg 1 right here. Okay. Now notice this leg 2 right here where it came down like so. Now for this to be leg 3, it would have to be at least this big. It's not. See what I mean? See that pull back? So what you do when you're counting Elliott's like that, you want to do, okay, if leg 3 is not as big as leg 1, then go ahead and do this like leg 1, leg 2, leg 3. Okay. So to do that, and this works quite well. I mean, just like Bill in the room this morning, he nailed that oil. It pulled back a little bit before it did it, but he did nail that at that 60, whatever it was. I don't remember, 09, I think it was. Very good, Bill. I think he's in the room too. He usually is. I don't see him, but he will be watching it later. Okay. So when you're doing your measured move, keep in mind if your previous swing is gone and you have nothing to the left to look at, and there really is nothing to look at, see? So you have to do like a measured move, and then you draw on your chart, okay? So since this is not a leg 1, because this is not a leg 2, because 3 is shorter, then you go leg 1, leg 2, and then leg 3 is right up here at 30, 34, 70-ish, right in that area, okay? That's your measured move. Now that's when you're drawing on your charts correctly. What I like to personally do, if I draw a measured move of some kind, I'm gonna fade it. Because if they miss that by a few ticks, I am not going to let them come back 15, 20 ticks. You can fade it, 3 or 4 ticks, 5 ticks if you want to. You could even do it, a full 6 ticks, which would be a band. Okay. So when they do this, let's say, I don't know if they did that, but let's see if they did. You see, they came awful close. That's close enough right there to me. I'd really be protecting my coin right here. See how it's coming into that box pretty close? I'm real cautious when they make that kind of move. Because how many times have you been left holding the bag when they just don't quite get up to where you thought they would? Let's see if they did, just for the fun of it. That's close. That's awful close. That definitely went inside my box, so I'd be taking coin on that little pup. And what you could actually do in a case like that, you got a high, low, higher high, you could put your stop right there or right there, okay? But if it hits that measured move and they pull back at all, you want to get out of that trade. Let's see if they went on up. Nope. Nope. See what I mean? See how you have to fade those a little bit? Because you got to keep in mind one thing, a measured move, you're drawing from a low, okay? They're probably saying, okay, 30.25.30 really was 30.25.60 instead. You see what I mean? And then these are just wicks. So could this measured move have been drawn a different way? Let's see if it worked exactly then. Because it's critical to draw on your charts. I firmly believe in drawing on every single chart, at least in my mind. Let's get rid of that measured move. Let's try this just for the fun of it. So we know that it wasn't a 3, so we went 1, 2, 3. Yeah, see, it hit it just literally. And it did go ahead and go up on the next time around, but see, that one nailed it almost perfectly. That was the measured move. So see how easy and good that actually works? Drawing on your charts will make a world of difference in how you make money. And if you get in the habit of just trying to make, a few bucks here and there, a few $100s here and there, you're going to find that you do quite well in your trading. Okay. Now, when I see a high, a low, and a higher high, like so, this is the drawing that you really want to train your eye to see also. Let me back this up just a little bit. I'm going to take everything off the chart for right now. See where the swing is right here? Now, I taught a webinar on line in the sand. Okay. Now this is a line in the sand, long, short, high, low, higher, high. If you don't trust that one because it almost double top, there's another one right here. See how to high, low, higher, high. So if this gets broken right through here, this is what's considered a trend change. Okay. Because it breaks line in the sand, you draw on your charts and you just simply get the trade. Okay. Now you're going to find that works a lot, by the way. Here's an example here, high, low, higher, high, like ABC, broke it, down it went. Okay. This one, ABC type move, broke this right here and up it went. See what I mean? So you can scalp these things literally all day long. And once you get through, you're done for the day. Do like a lot of our traders do. Talking with Bob the other day in the room, he's kind of gotten away from being more of a real going after big trades and just going more for $350 to $400. But then he clones them. And I firmly believe that's the answer to it, because otherwise this trading can literally almost drive you to partial insanity. You know what I mean? You don't want it to ever get that way where it takes away your joy in it, because trading can be very joyful, but it can be very, very stressful if you let it be. And if you have a goal of, like, say, $1,000 and you have to hit that before you're happy with yourself, you may find some days you can't do that with just one chart or one contract or two contracts. You see what I mean? So I find that 5 accounts, it's a whole lot easier to hit $200 and wait for the trade to come to you, like these mid-band trades, these line in the sand breakdowns. You could tell it was doing that because it was breaking support. It broke support here too. Even if you were a late bloomer, which we teach also, if you box in a phantom and it doesn't go your way, then guess what? You short it. So even whether you got this trade here, or even this trade here, you got more than a 10-tick trade. And that's all it takes. Okay. So then you literally just start drawing in your charts again. Okay. Looks to me like they're trying to head it up actually from here. So you have a low. Well, if you look to the left, you got a high, low, lower, high, lower, low. That's your ABC move right there. So anything above that, you're looking for any kind of pullbacks. And well, if you missed it, guess what? You just have to, if you miss this trade right here, then you would have to go ahead and probably chase it a little bit or box it in. I was up at 5 a.m. this morning. I nailed this trade this morning. Got some Apex accounts up to a little over $1,300 that I had just bought. Those $250,000 ones that were so cheap. One thing somebody was saying, do you trade your PA like that? No, my PAs, Linda and I are very conscious of. We want to make sure they're always way into the thresholds. We want to make sure that we never, jump in like 4 or 5 contracts, because all you got to do is get a BIP against you and you could hurt yourself pretty bad. Please show the time, Dave. You mean on the chart here? Well, this was 5 a.m. in the morning when we got up this morning, about right through here. But let's say that if you just decided that you wanted to take this trade here, see how you got a power dot? Another power dot? Now, that's not my favorite, but truthfully, I would take that trade in a heartbeat as long as it bipped up above the swing. Because when you draw on your charts, and let's say that you had gotten up at 5 a.m., okay, and you were just getting your coffee or whatever, and you're thinking, okay, you got to swing right over here to the left. So if they break that, do you think it might be a good trade to the upside? Possibly. See, it's a phantom so far. And then it breaks up, okay? So do you have to take it here? No, you don't. Okay, you can always wait till the background changes, and you can get that first time in the mid-band after a trend change, or like a stealth trade. My wife likes a stealth trade really well, like this right here. What you want to do with stealth is, as long as it's not taking out stealth, let's say, for instance, you had drawn on your chart and you said, well, if they break this area, they broke down here, so they can break back up, and you draw on your charts. Well, what you can actually do is wait for the green background, like so, and then wait for an up bar on stealth. So there's a up bar, there's a down bar, there's another down bar, there's an up bar, and that would get you in right there if you turned on stealth. Okay. To me, I don't think there's anything that I think is more important than, if you don't draw on your charts, you've got to draw it in your mind at least, because if you don't, then you're going to miss some of these trades. When I miss a trade, a lot of times, whether I get a bad one or I miss one, is usually because I didn't stop and think and draw in my mind on my charts. And you've always got to be ready if they decide to go the other direction too. Okay. Because just to give an example, gold did a nice monster move down here. I wasn't up this morning, but I was up when they broke this, if I remember right, on another computer, and I didn't even get all the trade. Matter of fact, drawing on my chart, I look to the left and trade the right. I don't like to look as much at these little swings that don't count as much, but you still want to draw them. Okay. There's a swing there, there's a swing there, and there's a swing basically there. Okay. So if you hit those, could you be happy with yourself? I mean, let's say that you got in right through here. I just said, you might do it on stealth. And so it goes up, it hits one, pulls back a little bit, hits a second one, pulls back a little bit, hits the third one. Now, could you stay with this trade, then look left to trade the right and say, okay, where's my left? That looks like it. Okay. So what would you do then? Just like I taught a few minutes ago, measured move, right? Because we have nothing on the left. So if we do a measured move, we would go from here to here, and here to here. And this would at least be our measured move right here. So I'd be probably looking to take some coin off the table right about that area right there. So let's see what it does. Predictor's even calling it. And that's pretty much, that's good for me there, but I'd still do it with the swing. And there it is right there. So that's your measured move right there. Now, could this go higher? Well, it might have. I don't even know, but let's look. We could actually put our stop just right under here. See what it does. Now put your stop right under here. See how you draw on your charts? Let me spread this out just a little bit. You're seeing that, right? It's lightning. And that was right. Do you see that? Okay, so basically, that went up quite a bit higher, right? But could you have taken your coin right here, and when that bar rolled over, could you take your trade off the table? Yeah, because who cares if it goes up a little bit more? You're not going to get every bit of every trade, but if you get a decent trade like this right here, and it takes out, swings to the left, and it does a beautiful measured move and even takes it out, then who cares? You're a happy camper. That's the way I always look at it. Okay, now we missed this one just a second ago, but what is the chart doing right now? What's the chart doing right this very second? It's they're stepping a mid band a little bit. So we draw on our chart and say, okay, that's our line in the sand along short. I'm going to get rid of the measured move. This is not as hard as it seems a lot of times. It's really not. Where they're going to get you is in faster moves and right it opens. You got to be careful then because they defy logic a little bit more. Here's an example here. You got a low, you got a little bit lower low. Does that mean that we go long if it takes this out? Only if it breaks it and kisses it. I need to add one thing to my toolbar. I like that arrow indicator. I need to put that on mine and keep it there. Arrow. I just want an arrow line. Yeah, there we go. Vertical line, horizontal line, arrow line. Okay, the only way I would want this to the upside is if it breaks this, kisses it. Is that my arrow line again? Yeah. And then heads up, because that's going to be your best trade setup. Just because they break this by a tick or two, you don't want to take it. Okay, just in case this is a real downtrend. Okay, so but still, you're drawing in your mind where this trade would change trends if it decides to. Okay, so if they come up anywhere near here and roll, then you would be ready to what? Short it, because you've already drawn in your chart. You know what it's doing. Okay, now we drew this line on a measured move, so let's redraw it right there at our swing. Now to me, they really need to kind of come up and kiss this area, come back and kiss this area, and then take off out of here if they're going to head up. I love the kiss trade versus the break the line, absolutely. But it doesn't mean you can't take the break the line. You've just got to be more cautious on it. So let's see what this actually did. So we got our lines drawn in our chart, right? That bar went up. That bar went up. That bar went up. That bar went down. You're in. See how that went back below that line? That is your entry on that particular trade right there, because all he did is kissed resistance, which you drew clearly ahead of time. And what you can also do is wait for the power dot. Okay, power dots get you in. I personally feel just a tad late, but then again, like my son says, they'll stop you from having a lot of grief sometimes too, because what if you got in on this bar and the next bar goes up? We don't know what it did, right? But what will you do with this trade, anyone? We've got to put our stop right there. So let's see what it does. Bar went down. Bar went down. Now I would put my stop right here, probably close the bar, okay? Because you expect what? A lower high if this is going to continue down, okay? Very important that it has a lower high, otherwise you're not in the right trade. You see what I mean? So if this was to pop down in this area, for instance, and it tries to go back up, it's got to get a lower high, okay? So that's why you can keep your stop a little tighter, because, for instance, if you get in this trade and you box this in, okay, and you went ahead and took that trade right there, your stop could easily be right here, especially with it already being up 7 ticks. Okay, so let's see what it did. Not let me move it. Why don't you let me move the chart there, Crudy? Or not Crudy, oil, gold. So let me move it this way. There it went. Okay, now you've got a bar up. What do you expect if this is going to head down? Anybody? Well, hopefully the next bar's down. We'll see. Next bar's down. Next bar's down. Next bar's down. Now, where could you put your stop on at least? If you want to leave a runner, you got to hope that the next trade is in this area here, because it's got to be a lower high. Okay. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and take, let's say that you did 2 contracts. So you're going to take one off pretty soon because you've got a line drawn right here at the bottom. And if they don't take that out with a little bit of a vengeance, you don't really want to stick with this trade. So let's see what it does. Where would you get out of this trade, anybody? And that looks like pretty good, at least to get out of one of your contracts to me, because I like to draw on my charts. And if they hit support or resistance, I mean, you've already got much more than 10 ticks. So the whole idea is you either close the trade out, period, or you wait for one more bar. Now, if one more bar happens to go up instead of down, then you're out. Okay. Now, another way you can do it though, and a lot of our people do this, because think about this. This could easily be a measured move again. Okay. So you've got a big old 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 almost. So that's leg 1, leg 2. That might be leg 3. You see what I mean? So if you draw on your charts, you're saying, okay, maybe they'll do this and maybe they won't, but I draw my measured move anyway. Now, if you want to ride this for the gusto, the only way to do it is to be willing for it to go all the way back in that box or take the swing out right here, a little micro swing. And when you're trading, that 30, 33, 30 all the way back to there is just dumb to let go, because you look at your P&L and you go, wow, I'm in 2 contracts. I'm up 22 ticks. That's $440. So, and the whole key to trading is what? It's your profit. Okay. So if they hesitate at a support level, then do you really care if it does do the measured move? Unless you want to get in another trade. Now, keep in mind that if you did get into another trade, it has to be a lower high than the previous high there at 35.60. Everybody sees that, right? So let's get out of this right here because it's hesitating. So we're going to get out of the trade like so. Let's just do it at that bar right there. If they take it out, we're out. Didn't take it out. That bar went up though, didn't it? Let's give it to the box anyway. Yep, you're out. Okay, so now you're out of even your runner and all. Okay, it even broke a trend line, by the way. And if you draw on your charts or in your mind, you can see that trend line was broken too. See there? When you finally train your mind to see these things without drawing them, because I could tell that trend line was broken, and I think half my people could too. Because when they broke that trend line, is it a long? No. Now, is it a long if you're an aggressive trader? Yeah. But you have to be awful aggressive to do that trade right there because you got to stair step in mid-band. So let's say that you got out at 30, 33.90, and you got in at 30, 35.30. So that's still not a bad trade. What, 24 ticks? Is that 24 or 14? Let me think. 6 and 6. That's just 14. Okay, so you got $140 and you got your profit totally down here to 30, 33.10 on the first one, and you took one out. Or you could have taken it all out if you wanted to. But the only way that you can get in this trade again is with a lower high. Okay, because if they go play them with this 30, 35.60, that's your line in the sand long short. Let's see what they actually did. Predictor saying right here. Draw on your charts and you'll be pretty amazed at. And we've tried to make it to where our scripts are pretty darn good at picking where the trade's going. For instance, okay, let's see what it does. That's not quite to the predictor, so I'm going to skip it. There's predictor right there. Let's take a shot at it just for the fun of it. If I lose on it, we'll go back and do something else. Ooh, that's bars up. I don't like that. That bar's down, though. We're okay. There we go. All right, put your stop right there. Okay, or inside the box. See how that works? Now, the whole idea, obviously, of a downtrend is a high, low, lower high, and lower low, right? And we did draw our measured move, right? But do you have to let it go from 30, 33.10 all the way back to 30, 34.70? That's 16 ticks. And if you had even one contract riding again, is that smart to let it go back that much or to get back in it or forget it because you got a great trade? See what I mean? So Bob, when you get out of these like this right here, don't you do it about like I'm doing here, draw a trend line, you hit support, they reject it, you just get out. Because the whole thing is you didn't know if this next bar was going to go down, but you also didn't know if it was going to go up, and it did go up. So the whole key to it is, when you hit those levels, is just go ahead and get out. Because just like we traded this morning, they literally went up right to that 65, 66 area that I talked about this morning on crude oil. And then they pulled back a little bit, and then they went as high as 72, if I remember right. But we didn't care about those extra 5 ticks. We just got our money and quit. You see the trend lines now? See, some of our people have been with us a long time. And just like I saw that trend line myself, even without drawing it, you got to start just kind of seeing a high, another lower high, and draw that trend line in your mind even. Because if you draw this in your mind even, you can see in your mind's eye that if it breaks that area right through there, it's no longer heading down. Yeah, those trend lines are good at getting out of trades. Okay, so that's really literally the whole idea of drawing on your charts. I mean, if you get to the point where you learn to draw on your charts every single day, whether it's in your mind or on your charts, you're going to be a lot better trader than most are. Because all you got to do, just like we were talking about, is get a few trades under your belt, walk away. We've talked about the old taking a few coins, like go to the bank and have them give you some 50-cent pieces, just so it's a little bit bigger, and put 5 of them on your desktop. And if you take a trade, put one of them in your pocket. And if you take another trade, put it in your pocket. You could also do it to where you do 5 trades, okay? And if they're all profitable, you could go ahead and keep the one out, try one more trade. What if you were trying 5 trades though, and you had 2 that were profitable, third was profitable, and then whoops, the fourth wasn't, then stop. Because the whole idea is that at that point, you're going to be trying to chase it back, and you might as well just take the profit of the 3 and then the little bit of a loss on the fourth one. Because to me, that works better. Okay. Now let's go to our chart just real quick. I'm gonna put it on pause just a second because I'm gonna let you see a chart, and I'm gonna have everybody in here tell me what you would do. Okay. So let me take this forward. Charles used to have those little questionnaire quizzes and stuff like that. Y'all remember any of that? You remember that? Anybody? I mean, that type of stuff, really does work because, here's an example right here. I'll just unpause this right now. You got a low, you got a high, you got a higher low. They would have to break this area right here. We don't know if they did, but let's draw it. They did not. Remember, we even called that trade in the room this morning. If they take out the low, then you've got to start drawing again on your chart, okay? So when they take out those lows, keep in mind, anytime they kind of shoot down a little bit, that's not a bad area to go ahead and take your coin. Yeah, he would give you 10 or 11 seconds to answer, made you think about it. That's what I'm going to try to do with this real quick too, okay? Because I think it's pretty important that we all get this, okay? So let's see what this did here real quick. Now, real gutsy trader could actually take a break at this. I am not that gutsy. I try to be sometimes, but I find myself I just can't do it. And the reason that I can't do it is because it goes against everything that I teach. Now, if this trade works, then power to it. But I can promise you this, that if you'll learn to really watch for the swing to be broken, you're gonna be a lot better trader. So let's see what it did. See, they would have just faked you. See, that's why you can't do these little bitty micro swings, okay? You have to get some kind of consolidation to where they're kind of saying, okay, we're done. So let's see. Now, if I was drawing on my charts though, I'd say, okay, if they break 30, 25, 60, if they take this out, that is, see if they did. Kissing it. This could be very possibly a trend change. What do you think? Anybody? I'm gonna let y'all decide. Don't look at your charts, please. Is that a trend change yet? Yes or no? In just a second. Let me see. My question log's kind of zipping along. Y'all are all answering. I agree. Kristen, I think you nailed it. You weren't even here, by the way, when Charles was alive. But if you've ever heard Charles speak, anything under mid-band, he was more biased to the downside. Anything above mid-band, he was looking for possible trend changes. And I think you nailed that. Let's see what it did. See, it just faked us all. That was a good entry. I think I drew that in the room this morning and we shorted that. It was a good thing you didn't go long, wasn't it? Now, let me ask you a quick question here. This has got a low, this has got a high, that's got a lower low. Now, if they take this out, per Kristen even, notice that they will be taking the mid-band out. See? Now, we don't know that they did, but that's a low, that's a high, that's a lower low. So this is your line in the sand, long, short right there. Now, if a person says, you know what, I've also got to swing over here to the left, drawn on your chart, maybe you would want to take that out before you ever head to the upside. You could do that because that is a good resistance area too. Okay, let's see what they did. Kind of breaking 1, 2, 3, aren't they? Right there at that 20, 23, 10 area. They did break up right here. This is your line in the sand, long, short, very, very aggressive. I'm not that aggressive. I am this aggressive though. If they take this out, I would go long. The reason for that is because if they do take that out, then they got a low, a high, and a lower low, and they would be heading in the proper direction for us. Does anybody remember this trade in the room this morning? I'm pretty sure that we took this trade because it did break up. Anybody remember that? I drew the lines on the chart. 25.60. Anybody remember that? Let's see what it actually did. It's kind of footballing around a little bit. But let me ask you a quick question. Okay, it broke the line in sand long short. So where could you put your stop if you took that trade? Where did I say you take long stops on a mid-band trade? Line 3, right? So let's see if line 3 held on this. Now, I wouldn't be loading the boat on this, believe me. But your stop's right down there, okay? Let's see what it did. Still playing a little bit. There you go. See, now you can put the stop below the swing. You're right. Once they make the little swing, you can put it there. Does anybody remember that trade this morning? You know why they went back and checked this right here? Anybody? Why did they check 25.30? because there was a swing over here at 35, 30, 25, 20, and they missed those by like a tick. So we actually took that trade, and it was called in the room this morning, if anybody remembers it. Now, if you're not gutsy enough to take that trade and you didn't draw on your charts, then you have to be more conservative and you have to wait for a green background. Let's see if you got it. There's a green background, there's a green midband, okay? Now, in a case like this, you've got to wait for some kind of a pullback. You've got to get like a power dot, to give an example. Bob, I think if I remember right, didn't you get a power dot on this? I'm pretty sure you missed this, but you got the power dot. Let's see. There's a power dot right there on that bar. So if you took this trade, okay, now keep in mind that that's a little riskier, but this thing was heading up, no question about it. So where would you put your stop in a case like this, drawing on your charts? Close of the bar, just in case they wick it, okay? This is what it's all about on drawing on your charts. It just works, that's all there is to it. Now keep in mind that you got a trade right through here, long in the room this morning, right? You got this trade short in the room this morning on gold. You got this trade short, the mid-band trade. So if you got this trade and this trade long, could you have been done anyway before all this happened? Although this trade was called too. Remember this morning I concentrated on gold because I was just in the mood to trade gold. It was a great morning on gold, okay? But you got to trade every trade just like we teach because, you know, to give an example, like even on this one right here, what if you said, you know what, I've got low here, got low here. Right now I got a low here. So if you can't see the trend line, draw the trend line, but kind of keep an eye on it, you know, just to see what it really does. Okay, let's see what it did. That hit a predictor. I'd probably be protecting coin, but I'll bet you, drawing on my charts, knowing where they're going, because we do know where they're going. There's a swing right here to the left at 28.20, and there's another swing right here at 28.70. So let's see if it held, and our trend line. Just testing it, see it? And there's another predictor right there. Now, in a case like that, draw your trend line again, even if you want to, because it hit two predictors. And or drawing on your chart, don't let it go below that swing right there at 29.90. Let's see if it did. You're out. Everybody see that, right? Notice this one perfectly hit the swing. Now, if you're using the trend line, keep in mind you could stay with this trade just in case it does bounce. Let's see what it did. You're out anyway, took the trend line out. So regardless where you got out of this trade, you got out of this trade, okay? Because why? Because you drew on your charts. Everybody see that? That's what you got to get in the habit of doing, is drawing on your charts, and you will practically see every trade that comes up. Now, if you're more of a conservative trader, you know, if you're more conservative, then realize that if they take out these swings, you've got to put a stop in somewhere, and I teach as close as I can where to put those stops, okay? Now, if this is more of a downtrend right now, pretty much see it, thrust, retrace, then where would your line in the sand long short on this chart be? Anybody? Because you got two of them, okay, and you want to draw on your charts. Let's just kill this real quick, and let's draw on our chart. There and there, okay? This is your line in the sand long short right there. You got a high, you got a low, you got a higher high. So if they take that out, now that's above mid-band, so I'm not too strong about taking that trade. Now, I would take a break and a kiss if it held resistance. So here's what you can do in a case like that, is you take your arrow line, you say, okay, if you break here, and you kiss here, whoops, wrong one, then I will take you, or I'm gonna have to take you only if you break like Phantom, to give an example, something like that. Or if you're a conservative trader, you gotta wait for it to break trend. Let's see what it actually did. That broke. That's hard for me to short right there, it really is. I know most of you have the same problem that I do on that because you got a stair-stepping mid-band, but that is a short. Not my favorite, simply because it had stair-stepped up enough that the background was green, the mid-band was changing and everything. So, you know, if you took it, where would you put your stop? Well, you'd have to put it at line 5. So let's see if it worked, if you did that. You put your stop at line 5 when it broke, and it looks like you got a 10-tick trade. That's still one of the toughest ones for me to take because I'd rather take that Phantom right there, and I called that Phantom live this morning in the room. And it worked. See, that's one of the reasons why, to me, it's extremely hard. Even though this is lightning, let me show it to you real quick. I'll show you exactly. See, that's a lightning swing, no question about it. So it broke it. And is that a stair-stepping up? Stair-stepping up, and then what does it do when it breaks that? It's breaking down. Very tough to take. This trade, I'll take in a heartbeat. I even called it this morning in the room. Keep in mind, though, that a Phantom trade, a lot of times, is a trend change. Because if they kissed resistance, we've already said, if it kisses resistance and rolls, we would short it. But guess what? The mid-band's still yellow. So in that case, I just pretty much be stopped out of my trades all. my Phantom trade. See, it went up, it went up, it went up, kissed resistance. So you got your 10 tick trade. And that's good enough in my personal opinion. Now with a red background, as a rule, this will go ahead and change trends because we don't get a red background just for the fun of it. So in a way, you could ignore the yellow midband and just go with the red background. I still don't personally like that simply because yellow midbands, I like to see if I can get more of a trade. In a case like this where every bar went up, I don't think I'd let them take out line 3 on this trade that's long. Now, could you have shorted that when it rolled over? Again, in my personal opinion, that's still a little bit difficult because I like the idea of my midbands. They tell me which way to be on the trades. Most of the time, that's going to be pretty accurate. Okay. Let's see, we got about 3 more minutes. Anybody have any questions on this at all? All I did was show gold today, but you can take this to any chart and look at it. ES, what did it do? What is it doing now as far as that goes? We've got some great scripts in my opinion. Look at these. When it's stair-stepping, phantom trades. When it's stair-stepping, you got the midband trades. When it's stair-stepping, you got the midband trades. First time in the midband after a trend change. Let's see if this was about the time we opened the room this morning. I called some of these trades this morning too. Anybody remember this? This was drawn live in the room. And keep in mind that when you're drawing your charts, you're going to see where to get in the trade. Now, since this was just at the open, ignore that midband, okay? Because if it starts stair-stepping again, see how this got a higher low right through here? And it takes out this swing, it takes out this swing to the left, then that's pretty much heading up, okay? But if you want it to be even more conservative than that, then what you have to do is draw your lightning on your chart, and you probably get in right through here on this side of the chart. See it? See, if you draw your lightning, I'll show it to you. You got to learn to see that lightning too. That's lightning. Yeah, that's lightning too. So you have a high, low, lower, high, lower, low, lower, high, lower, low. So this would be more conservative right through there, or possibly even here if it took out resistance. But just like Kristen said, if it's below midband, you want to be careful with it. But I think we had a line drawn right about through here on our chart. And Charles's favorite trade was right through here, a line 5 trade. And he put his stop at line 3. And that turned into a monster trade. But you could have missed that trade entirely because I called the midband trade too. That was the midband right there. And like I say, I don't even normally trade SE at all. I trade gold and oil for the most part. Okay. Oh yeah, no kidding, Chalopathy. You don't want to trade NQ. They don't obey the scripts for one thing because we're looking more at scalping, and NQ just does too much striped shirt. It's just up and down like a yo-yo. But you got to think that their bursts and pullbacks are deep, so you'd have to set up your scripts accordingly. Now, I've never promised NQ works on Viper because, for one thing, with 4 range charts, it'll lock up most of your best computers out there. Colin, on your question, you mean on gold just a little bit ago? You're saying why did it turn red? It was about 10 o'clock, wasn't it? No, it's right through. Or you meant ES. Did you mean ES or oil on that? Or gold, pardon me. And what time was it on gold? Was right through here, where I was talking about that yellow midband. Yeah, the reason, now keep in mind the midband changes when it breaks this area here. This never broke this area here, but it did break our algorithm to change the background. And they're usually pretty accurate. Because when you get a red background, as a rule, you'll get somewhat of a trade to that direction. If it's like at a news or something, I kind of ignore it, but it's pretty important when it's, even though this didn't change the midband until right through here. See, they didn't change the midband until right there when that broke that swing right there. That's when it changed. And that was still a 10-tick trade, by the way. My shared screen is cropped off at the bottom. That's weird. Let me see here. Still cropped off at the bottom? That is weird. I see it on the deal. It's actually cropped off. Let me do it this way then. Instead of maximizing it, I'll just stretch it out instead, see if that worked. Is that better? But again, keep in mind, even conservative traders can make money with these scripts, because if you just wait for the first phantom after a trend change, first midband after a trend change, if they don't work, like remember gold this morning? I think gold was right here that I called gold long, if I remember right. Maybe it must have been here because we had a green midband. So it did get a power. Remember this? This did get a power. So you literally got in the trade on that bar right there. So if your stop was at line 3, then basically you got faked in and you got stopped out. That was the trade I lost on this morning. Was it a legit trade though? Absolutely. Because it was a stair-stepping midband. It was everything about it seemed like it would bounce there. It just didn't. Okay. So I hope this helped everybody out a little bit, because, drawing on your charts, in my personal opinion, is super critical. You know, for instance, right here on this chart right now, you can pretty much see you got a low here, a high, same low. Is this your line in the sand long short? Not yet. Probably will be, but it has to kind of take out this to get a low, a high, a lower low, and then that will be my line in the sand long short, and it'll be above midband. So will that happen sometime tonight? Possibly. And that's what we deal in, is, you know, drawing on our charts. What's the overall trend on gold? It's a little bit to the downtrend all day, so maybe they'll take it on up because you do have a low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low so far. And if you're a real gutsy trader, this is even your line in the sand long short right there. That's gutsy. See the low, the high, the lower low? That's pretty gutsy. This is less gutsy. So you can pretty much draw it and say, you know what, if they break this and they come back and kiss it, is that, you're not getting the line, am I? There we go. If they break it, come back and kiss it, that would be something to look for. But in the meantime, you're still looking for shorts. Okay.